Let's get with education matters. President Cyril Ramaphosa set to deliver the keynote address at the three-day 2026 Basic Education Sector Lekgotla. It's taking place at the Birchwood Hotel in Boksburg today. The event brings together education officials, policymakers and sector experts to discuss ways to strengthen South Africa's education system and prepare pupils for the future. Watching that story is our senior reporter, Samkele Maseko, live to us from Birchwood Hotel in Boksburg. And Samkele, South Africa is already dealing with weak numeracy and literacy outcomes, but I can't imagine a scenario where the president speaks without, at the very least, addressing this devastating story we've been covering all week about that horror crash in the Vaal.
Indeed, and the president is most likely going to touch on that horror crash that took place in the Vaal. You did earlier on see in the week as well that the driver has been arrested on culpable homicide charges. The president will speak extensively about that on the scholar transport system, particularly at the basic education level. For those basic education students, particularly at a lower level, I am now going to bring in the Director General of the Department of Basic Education, who's going to speak extensively amongst those issues on improving the numeracy rates between grade R and going to grade 3, which this Basic Education Lekgotla will speak extensively about. A very good morning to you, Director General. Just the essence of this Basic Education Lekgotla, improving numeracy rates between grade R to grade 3 and the focus on early childhood development as well.
Well, this is the biggest event in the sector. An outreach to experts in South Africa, from NGOs to HEIs to practitioners on the field, but also reaching out to experts in the region, in the continent and in the world. The theme of this conference is about strengthening foundations for learning, to build on the resilience of the system, but also a future-ready system. And the focus, as you correctly pointed out, it's about early childhood development, it's about numeracy and literacy. We had a whole session just focusing on numeracy, on mathematics, right from the foundation phase up to the highest level of the system. We had countries like Ghana, and other countries in Africa participating in the panel discussion, sharing their experiences as to how do they strengthen their system to make sure that they do well in the area of numeracy.
DG, has South Africa improved when it comes to issues of numeracy and literacy as compared to other children in the basic education sector globally? Have we improved in that particular aspect? A few years ago, there was an outcry that South African students and learners are not at the level they should be at a numeracy and literacy rate.
Well, there was an expert who addressed the plenary yesterday from the Shanghai Normal University. He says we have improved in teams. We have improved even in other tests, including SACMEC and even our own national tests. But we are not at the level where we should be. The improvement is not big enough and it's not fast enough. That's why we had to give a specific focus on numeracy to say, what are other countries doing which are moving faster than we do, which we have to learn from them, and what is it in the system that we need to do to make sure that we up the pace in terms of improving, particularly on numeracy.
What are some of the key areas that you are going to be looking at as a department in focusing on them, having a focal point on them so that the numeracy and literacy rate of South African basic education students improves?
Well, the first thing is to check whether children are school ready. We've now introduced early grade learning assessment, ELNA, which helps us to determine whether learners are ready for schooling or not. And we say that's where we need to start. And then from there, learners are subjected to assessment in grade 3, 6, and 9 to follow up and check whether there's improvement. And the fact that early childhood development, 0 to 4-year-old, is with basic education. That gives us that advantage. We won't have an excuse to say we only get them from grade R. Now we have to build that foundation before they are born. The first 1,000 days are very important. Working with the Department of Health, working with the Department of Social Development to make sure that these children are ready right from the foundation, and we get them a solid foundation so that when they come to grade 12, they perform at the level that we expect them to perform. And we even raise our participation rate from 34% at least to 40 and 50%.
What are some of the key points you're expecting to hear from the President, especially on early childhood development, knowing that he's very passionate about that particular aspect, noting that South Africa has not gotten it right in the first founding years of our democracy?
The President is going to remind us that early childhood development is with us. We can't say it's with a different department anymore. The second point that the President is going to remind us about is learners who drop out of the system. And I expect the President also to commend the sector for the improvements that we've been making. You would have seen that 66% of schools that are poor are producing bachelors. That's quality. Whereas in 2000, 2005, 80% of bachelors were coming from your rich schools, quintile 4 and 5. Now 66%. And the President, I expect him, to acknowledge that improvement and nudge us to even do more, to work hard to make sure that we account for every learner in the system. He's very passionate about accounting for every learner in the system.
Speaking about learners, DG, right now my colleague Jade Lee Polsa is in Eddington Primary School in Durban in South Beach. There are about 60 students who are not yet placed within that particular school in Durban. Eddington, there are complaints about foreign nationals flooding that particular school. You come to Gauteng, there's a placement issue. You go to the Western Cape, there's a placement issue as well. How are you dealing with that as the Department of Basic Education?
Well, first we had a special portfolio committee meeting on Tuesday. Was it on Tuesday? I think it was on Monday. Yeah, on Monday we had a special portfolio committee which focused on Gauteng and Western Cape, which are our major pressure points. Gauteng, you'll understand, it experiences inward migration. Inward migration from outside the country. Gauteng is the pressure point because, Johannesburg is the commercial hub of South Africa. Economic activity is quite high, opportunities for people even coming from outside the country. Those opportunities are more for them. And that's why Gauteng is facing this pressure. But Western Cape is the second economically active province which is growing at a very fast rate. And therefore people go where there's economic activity. And therefore, the trends that we are seeing are not even in line with previous trends that we knew, which we could plan for. The waves are much bigger and they come in multiples to the extent that a province like Gauteng and Western Cape, unless we get extraordinary funding coming to them to build more schools, I think we're going to see this year in and year out.
And the fracas we're currently seeing at Eddington Primary in KwaZulu-Natal, particularly that standoff now between South Africans and those whom have come to South Africa for a better future from other countries.
We checked this thing of saying that foreign nationals seem to be taking, children of foreign nationals seem to be taking spaces of South African children. There's no evidence based on that. But there are learners who are learners of foreign nationals who are admitted in schools just like all other learners. And the majority of the learners who are admitted are South Africans. There are instances where parents are making allegations such as schools preferring foreign nationals over children of South Africans. We've not come across any evidence in that regard. But I think there are organizations also who are using, the issue of children of foreign nationals to, hype up emotions of South Africans to give an impression that preference is given to children of foreign nationals, and that is really not the case. The facts do not seem to attest to that at all.
Lastly, on a somber note, DG, the issue of the children who died in that horrific accident in Sebokeng. Just your word as the Director General of Basic Education and some of the measures that you'll be putting in place to further regulate the scholar transport system that is seemingly, notably taking the lives of innocent children. In Sanya, in Pinetown, there was also another driver who lost control and hit a tree in that particular area of Pinetown near Sanya Primary School.
Well, this is a tragedy of unprecedented proportion. Again, it's sad. We've lost, I think, 14 lives, and losing one life, it's one too many. The sad story is that in many of these instances, it's either reckless driving or unroadworthy vehicles. The role that basic education plays is to provide where the need is. We work with the Department of Transport to make sure that vehicles are checked whether they are roadworthy or not, and that the appropriate action is taken. The Department of Transport is seized with these matters to try and make sure that we don't have incidents of this nature anymore. I know that when I say we don't have them anymore, we had one such last year, and we've got another one early this year. I'm hoping that going into the future, this will not happen again in our country. We should find ways to make sure that it doesn't happen. But we can only work with the Department of Transport because they are the responsible line function department in that regard.
Thank you very much, Director General. That is the Director General of the Basic Education Department speaking to us on this Basic Education Lekgotla that looks at early childhood development and improving the numeracy rates between grade R and going to grade 3, saying South Africa has improved on a global standing as a report by one of the representatives from the Shanghai Institute in China. But much more still needs to be done. The President will extensively speak about those issues around South Africa's numeracy and literacy rate around those students at a basic education level, at early childhood development, and also between grade R to grade 3. Because if you get it right at early childhood development, then you are most likely to succeed in receiving outstanding metric results of those pupils who will then be leaving the basic education sector at grade 12. Ayanda.
All such important issues. Samkele Maseko, our reporter, live to us from the Birchwood Hotel in Boksburg. For now, thanks very much indeed. Goes without saying, as soon as the President takes to the podium at that gathering, we'll certainly take you there live to get you a sense of what he is thinking about these important issues.